Welcome to Quilting with Mary Beth and Donna. Today we talk about what we've been working on in our quilting studios, and then we have a wonderful conversation with Jeananne Wright, noted quilt historian and quilt appraiser. Thanks for joining us today. Good morning, Mary Beth.
Good morning, Donna.
How are you today?
I am wonderful. How about you?
I am here.
Yay!
I have not quite gotten my day officially started, so I'm still in my workout clothes and crap like that, but
Oh, you work out? Well, I put the clothes on,
that's
the work
good.
the workout clothes. No, not mine. I mean, I put
Uh,
on workout clothes. And then when I go to
yeah,
bed, excuse me. When I go to bed at night, I lay down and I go, "Shoot, I meant to work out today. I guess I'll do it tomorrow."
yeah, I get that. Totally, I get that. Um, so what's going on with you?
Well, I'm doing we are doing Sophia Legit kits. And I finished finally part 2 of my first shipment. So, I gotta start part 1 of my second shipment, but, I've just separated it out into the folders. I haven't started it yet. And I am to a point on my other paper piecing thing with the, Tim Holtz fabric. I'm to a point that I need the background fabric now. So once I get the background fabric, I can finish that quilt. I have 2 blocks to finish.
How big is that one gonna be?
Mm, depends on the borders. Right now it's probably 36 by 48 probably. I think those are 12-inch blocks. They might be bigger than that. Um,
How many blocks do you have?
right now I have 10.
You
I
will
need
have
2.
12.
Yeah, I need 2 more, and then, I have a lot of fabric left over, I don't know why. Maybe I bought extra when I did you know but I am gonna put borders on it. There's a cool blue fabric in there, and I've got enough of that fabric here, although it has lines in it, so I've gotta make sure orient that the proper way so it's not going all different directions.
That's cool. I bought the Tim Holtz, the
Yeah.
orange
Uh-huh.
selection and the yellow selection at City's Edge, and I was thinking about taking one of those and doing just a 3-yard quilt, like, maybe, or I don't know, there's 10, so I've got there's 10 fat quarters of one, and then there's 10 half yards of one. So I was thinking about doing some kind of a, 3-yard quilt type pattern where
Crappy.
yeah, yeah, but it's just kind of muted. I mean, so that all the colors you won't be able to really see that there's a huge pattern because the fabrics are all close to being the same.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about with doing those, which I'm
Yeah.
kinda looking forward to on a retreat
Yeah.
to be named in the future.
I did see one as I was going through, I don't know, probably Instagram yesterday, and it was the yellow Tim Holtz, and the way they had done it looked really, really cool.
Really?
So,
Another thing that I saw, and I just remembered it while we were talking, uh, Janie, um, Ro Ga
well,
Roga I don't know how to say her last
oh,
name, Rogahis Rogah
mm,
or whatever. Janie, one of my
mhm,
quilt buddies, from the Longmont Quilt Guild, did a class on the panel, the panel quilt that we're that we're doing,
yeah, yeah,
and, somebody, posted a picture of their quilt, and what they had done was they had the panel in the center, and then there was a border, and then they used the hexagons in the next border, and it was really, really pretty. I really liked it. I was like, "Oh, maybe I don't need to blend it into the picture," but I thought of you because I like the way they did that.
yeah. Did you get a
So,
picture of it or something?
yeah, I can forward it to you.
Yeah, that'd be
Uh,
good.
'cause it was on Facebook. Yeah,
Okay.
so that I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so that's good, and how long did it take you to do your second
Oh, boy.
block of
You
oh,
know, it took
whatever?
me a long time because there's one piece in there that I could not figure out. I did the first block and it went real fast. And then I went to the retreat and then I came home and I was so involved in this Tim Holtz paper piece pattern that I didn't want to quit. I was like on a roll with it. So I kept piddling with it and I thought, no, I need to get this done because I felt pressure because I got the email from Legit Kit saying, your second package is on its way. And I'm like, ah! So I got I got started on it. I got all the little pieces put together, but there's one little piece that's solid. Well, I pinned it to the fabric and then it was kind of floppy on the edges. So I went ahead and put a little dot of glue on it to glue it to the paper. And then I sewed it and ripped it and sewed it and ripped it 37 times. And then I remembered how to do paper piecing. Here I've been doing it for a month or more, and it's like I had forgotten how. Well, then I finally put it in the right place, sewed it down, and then when I sewed all the others to it or around it, it's kinda got a bubble, but I thought, "Well, my quilter can quilt that out."
Yeah. Yeah. That I'm sure the bubble's not that bad.
It looks
But
it
yeah.
I see it, it's blaring to me, but I could not get it to lay like it should, and I just wondered if it was because it's a single piece, not sewed to anything else, and then you sew it, whatever.
Yeah. I, I don't know if I said anything about this. I got a call from, a man who had wanted me to, fix his comforter. So he has this old comforter,
Yeah,
and the way he talked about it was that it had come apart at the seam, and he just needed it to be gathered up and, the stuffing
stuff.
fixed a little bit. Well, he brought it to me and, the thing was threadbare. The inside of the bottom of the comforter was just totally worn away. It was like so, of course, when you say you're gonna do something that you don't wanna do, it just becomes that much bigger of a deal.
Yeah,
So I went and I bought a full size, um, sheet and I took the whole thing apart and I took I bought some high loft batting and I tried to make it again like a comforter, and of course, there was so much extra fabric on it that I couldn't buy I couldn't quilt it to stabilize it. So then I had to take that apart, and then I just put it on the machine and I quilted it. And then I tried to fix the edges like a comforter, it's just like turned edges,
yeah.
and that didn't work, so I had to pull it out. And then I just put a binding on it, and I'm like, "Well, I'm a quilter." I just turned this comforter into a quilt, but
And
whatever.
you made $37.
No, I lost $20. I think I lost $20.
Oh, no.
So,
That's
but,
fu
I gave it to him and he's got a comforter for the next,
yeah,
another 20 years, and
his favorite.
I hope he enjoys it,
It's his favorite, I'm
because
sure.
well, I don't know if he was as happy with it as I was to get rid of it, but
Yes. Well,
so,
whatever.
I worried with that all week, and I've just been going like, I've this has been a very full week, but I haven't gotten anything accomplished really.
Yeah,
Getting back to Sophia, that first week that I had it, I was doing quilts on the, computer machine, and so I could sit there and work on the Sophia without, feeling bad. But now I've got this king size, well, no, maybe not queen size double wedding ring on the custom machine, and I need to get that done, and I haven't even touched it this week. So I have to, and so there's my dilemma with working at home. It's if there's a quilt on the machine that needs to be done, I can't sit and work on Sophia. So
right.
I'm
Yeah,
behind.
I get that, but you know what? There's, there's not a, time schedule on it. They just send it out once a month. If you don't get it done, you can bring it to
I know, but
retreat and work on it.
I was supposed to be, Super Donna, and I was supposed to get it done before you because that's
Oh, I
what my
see, I never
motivation
know. I never know when we're in competition until you say something like that.
until I
I
win.
always think, "Oh, we're such good friends. We wanna do the same project. Oh, that's so sweet." And then I
Uh,
realize we're in competition.
yeah, well,
So,
we're not because 'cause you'll win, but
oh,
that's because you're Mary Beth and I'm just Donna.
no, well, I don't have a long arm business, so there you
This is
are.
true. This is true. So I did get, a couple I got 3 new 3, 4, 5 new quilts that I have to do, so, I got a little business going, so that's nice, I've got stuff
Yeah,
to do.
that's good.
I did, go look at, a property yesterday, and it's a, commercial on downstairs, and it's a two-bedroom apartment upstairs.
Uh-huh,
Oh my gosh, I want it so bad, but I can't justify it 'cause, you can't make enough rent off the top to justify not having to put, money into it.
right.
So, but that's my goal is to have a commercial site.
Like like me in the school and wherever it was, Lawson or whatever, that I wanted
Well,
so bad.
this is a
It
little bit
didn't,
more reasonable.
yeah, that one didn't have a roof, uh, and Rod was like, "Do you know how much money this would cost to fix?" And I had people like, uh, Marjorie Wakefield, Brad, he said, "Oh, I'll come up and work on it," which he's a great craftsman, so I thought, "Ha ha, I have somebody that can do it." He didn't say he was gonna charge, so I thought, "Well, woo-hoo."
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, Ed called this morning and he was saying that he had talked to somebody about a mortgage and I think he said that you could get a mortgage on it and payment would be about $800 a month. And I'm like, ugh,
yeah, there goes all your
ugh. But it was gorgeous. I mean, it's a almost 100-year-old brick building, and it
yeah,
sits in this really nice neighborhood, and there's, like, a hair salon on the other across the street, and
yeah,
it
that'd
just
be
would have been
handy.
a great place. It had great light, it had really tall ceilings downstairs, and, it would have been wonderful, but that's okay. Another one will come up at some point, and I will be able to run and get it.
I
So,
so want a quilt retreat. I so want to run a quilt retreat, and
I
Rod
know.
keeps saying, "No, no."
Ah, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I
That's
know,
a
I know.
party pooper. He says, "It'd be too much work." Well, I have somebody that'll clean it, you know? So, it's just getting it all set up, and if we get the right house, like in Warsaw, it'd be close to 2 quilt shops, and but
I know.
he says no.
Well, Sheila and I looked at that, mansion in
Mm,
St. Joseph. Did I ever show that to you? The
no, you
big
and I
yellow
look,
house?
no.
Oh my gosh, this place, I mean, it's a I don't know what you would call it, an antebellum, mansion,
Yeah.
basically, where you walk in the front door and there's this um, huge hallway when the staircase kind of goes up one side and then up the other in the back. And then there's these two great big rooms that would be perfect for sewing. There's like 7 bedrooms and
Oh,
there's like 2 bedrooms over here and a bath and 2 bedrooms over here and a bath. And then there's a third floor and it would have been perfect. But yeah, somebody would have to put it together, make it
well,
happen.
Amy has been telling me, every time I post that I have, grand designs, this would make a great, how I always post those for
Yeah.
sale places, and I say, "Oh my gosh, this could be a great quilt retreat." Well, Amy said, "If you're serious, I can I can give you some properties that would be great for quilt retreats." Well, don't even tempt me because then I whine around the Rod all the time about how much I need a quilt retreat, and he's like, "No."
Well, and I was, I looked at the numbers a little bit, and if you don't have to have that many retreats to cover the cost of, you know,
Everything.
the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
But, it's just, and then there's that five-story building in St. Joseph that I love and I really want, but, that's really a dream. But
That would be like Quilt Hotel. Whew,
I know, it'd be so wonderful.
wouldn't it?
So if anybody wants to,
Chip in.
sponsor us.
Yeah. Oh gosh, a sponsor would be great.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
sponsor our
it?
podcast, we're there.
Yeah. Yep. Help.
Ah, um, oh, I did get my, spoonflower labels, in the
Wow.
mail the day before yesterday, so I have 42 labels, a yard of fabric full of labels, so,
That's
and I
cool.
still have 0 I still have 0 quilts labeled, so we'll see.
You will.
I
I'm
did
sure
put
you have 42 quilts laying around there. I've seen your walls
I
and stuff.
know. I need to do that. I did, quilt Sheila's sunflowers that she worked on at the retreat,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I bound it, and it's hanging behind Ed in his office, so
Wow, cool.
it's on what is it on? It's on a, sabbatical from her until I see her again, and I get to hang it in my quilt room, so that'll be fun
Uh, yeah,
if I give it back to her.
right. That would be the
Yeah.
hard part because that was cute. That was a cute quilt.
That's a really cute quilt. And so I did put a binding on a quilt. So I'm not doing too bad for this
You're
week.
productive.
Yeah. And Ed's out of town until tomorrow evening, so I can I after we get done here today, I don't have anything that I have to do, and neither tomorrow, so maybe I'll work on my double wedding ring quilt and maybe I'll do some piecing.
Well, I'm gonna go in after this and mix up some bread and let it sit and rise, and then I'm gonna come out here and maybe clean it up while I'm between projects because it's kind of a mess. And then this weekend, I have to get caught up on my homework from Tucker University and cut out my next. She always wants us to cut our fabric before we show up for class,
Mhm.
which is a great idea because last time I didn't read all the way down, so I left one piece of fabric off. So I'm over here going trying to cut it all, while she's saying, "Okay, so this piece to this piece," and I'm like, "Stop, wait."
When is that Wednesday again?
Yeah, it's every 2 weeks, and then there's 1 week that she'll be at Paducah. Is that next week? No. We get
I don't
a
know.
3-week break in between one of them, I think, and then there's one where we do it 2 week, each Monday,
Yeah.
so or each Wednesday. So, yeah, it's always on a Wednesday, and I can either attend. Okay, so this is what I did. I can either attend 10 o'clock in the morning or 7 p.m. So my 10 o'clock in the morning got taken. I forgot about the class and I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll take you wherever." And you know how that goes. So
Yeah.
then I went, "Oh." And then I remembered, "Oh, yeah, they do it at 7, so I can do that." Oh my gosh. I am not an evening person.
Yeah.
I was I was sitting here about to doze and I thought, "No, I can't go to sleep yet." It was 8:30 when we got out and I was like, "Okay, this is my bedtime."
I totally
The
get it.
animal. Yeah.
I totally get it. So my life will calm down a little bit at the beginning of May. So hopefully this summer I can get a lot of sewing done.
Yeah, 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 and then we're gonna go for retreat in the first part of May, right?
I know, yeah.
Yay.
Second week of May.
Yep,
Yeah, so
and,
that'll be fun. And I have to figure out if I'm gonna bring stuff to finish or if I'm gonna start something. Oh, and you're going to pick up my kit from
mhm,
Amy
yeah,
um for that quilt that I bought,
I thought I
quilt
could do
kit
that
I bought.
today. Yeah, I got it too.
I
I say
I'm not you did?
I did.
I have to tell you, you remember we saw that quilt on the KC Makers?
Yes.
Um,
Oh my gosh, I love that fabric.
I tried to buy the quilt And it was a big no from God because I tried like twice to buy it and somehow it didn't work. And I thought, no, that's just a message to say, Donna, you just bought a kit
I
and you don't
know.
need this one.
I
But I
love
might
that
have to go back and
fabric.
get it.
What's the name of
I
that
know.
fabric? What is that
I
fabric?
don't
Do you know? It's so beautiful.
can look it up.
Um, so I bought that kit from Amy, but I kept thinking about that fabric from, well, it's they've got it at Fat Quarter Shop too, because I put my email address in on Fat Quarter Shop and said notify me when it's available. And within about 3 or 4 days, I got an email saying it's available. I'm like, ah. So then I thought, no, I just bought that quilt kit from Amy. So no, and I've gone back like 3 or 4 times. I've even put it in my cart and then I've taken it back out and ugh, so such pretty fabric.
I know it's gorgeous and I'm looking for the name of it.
It let's see. And the pattern, the pattern was good. Is it
It's
the one?
sagewood, right? Sagewood?
Yes. By isn't it Moda?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love
Yeah, it's
that fabric.
gorgeous. And that quilt is pretty too. The quilt was
Yeah.
smaller than I thought. It's this the pattern is called sycamore.
Okay.
And but it's not that big. It's only let me see if I can it's only 60 by 7. I guess that's big enough. 60
Well,
by 75.
I was looking at the half yard bundles. So they're like $200, I think, or maybe more than
Uh,
that.
For all of them? All the fabrics in the line?
Yeah. Maybe it was 249. I don't know, but anyway,
Oh, yeah.
it's so beautiful. And I've got those Lynn Wilder patterns. I don't know if I know you've seen it. I probably showed it to you and went, ooh, oh, look at this. But anyway, I have those patterns. They're the ones that I searched and searched for the fabric that was 3 years old and finally got one piece from Australia. So um, there's that. You know what? I just ordered some stuff again from Etsy, and I was on my new laptop and I couldn't figure out where to go to put in just United States. So I ordered cake decorations for my little Amish neighbor from Lithuania. It's so
Lithuania
ridiculous.
thanks you. Now there's tariffs that's gonna cost you 3 times as much, but that's okay.
I know. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I, uh I bought backing before I left. I think before the quilt retreat, oh, I don't know, maybe after, I went back and bought that daisy, fabric that goes on one of those block of the months,
Oh yeah.
that I put together last fall. So I got a backing for that. I'm gonna donate that to the church, auction, and then I bought more fabric for my curtains for my dining room, so that's gonna be a $400 project, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I
Isn't
did
that funny
measure
how
it.
that works out?
I know. I did measure it, and I know how long it needs to be. I think my piece now is 46 by 46. It needs to be 60 inches. So I need to add, um, 14 inches to, the top of it, but I think that'll be cute.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really cute, so
Yeah, I think
maybe I'll
so.
do that this weekend.
Yeah. Well, I haven't ever finished that curtain for my door yet either. So so I
Did
need to
that
work
come
on
out of the
that.
jar, Mary Beth?
Oh
Are
my
you
gosh,
spraying?
I haven't touched the jar because but the Tim Holtz paper piece thing came out of the jar. So I did do that. And and then what else came out? Oh, the other one that I took to retreat came out of the jar, and it's the Riley Blake block of the month from last year. And so I got it ready for last year, one of the retreats, and I got it all cut out. May have been for the one that we go to at Kinderhook, and then I didn't get to go because my eyeballs didn't cooperate. Um, so I had that one all cut out, and I went into the shop. Don't go in the shop when you're vulnerable. 'Cause I walked in there, and it was just me and Amy, and she's like, I only have one Riley Blake block of the month kit left. And I said, "Mm." She goes, I can make you a deal. I'm like, shoot, I just got that one cut out. And I'm telling you, I had to take a notebook and go through the whole pattern and write down how many background I needed of 2 by 2 or whatever. I mean, it's little pieces, you know. So I've got this whole kit cut out, and then she gives, not gives me, sold me another one. And I'm like, shoot, shoot, shoot. Now I got to cut that one out, try to get it ready because I want to sew them up at the same time, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
why, but I don't have to, I guess. But anyway,
yeah. Uh, you know, uh, I don't know. I saw something on the local swap and shop or stop or whatever, and somebody is having an estate sale this weekend, and there's a quilter, so they
oh
were a
boy,
quilter. So luckily, I'm not into that kind of stuff. But you know what?
it's
We're
hard
gonna we're
for
gonna
me.
die with some fabric. We're gonna die
I
with
know it.
some fabric. We
Well,
just need to
you know,
own up to that.
when I go to those things, I love them, but when I go to those, I don't look at the fabric because I got plenty. I don't need
Yeah,
somebody's
you look at the
fabric.
quilts, right?
Yeah, mhm. But I look at tools or whatever, and, you know, that one time I bought it was at an auction, online auction, locally for me in Kansas City at that time, and I bought my koala sewing table for, $50, and then I had
Oh,
to
I
pay a
remember that.
10% buyer's premium, so it was $55. And then the next sale, I bought a, koala, I think, cutting table for 50 cents. Rod said, "No way, you can't get that for 50." And now the bids are like, you gotta start at $5, you know? But at that time, and I got it for 50 cents, and I didn't realize there was an office chair there too, and I was just so excited about the cutting table that I didn't even look at the office chair, and it was a koala sewing chair. So, coulda got that too, probably for next to nothing.
Yeah,
But that's what I look at when I go to those sales because you can pick up some deals, and then after having the koala cabinet, I realized it's not tall enough for me, neither was the cutting table. I need to be able to raise them up just a hair, you know, because it's kinda hard on my
right,
shoulder.
right.
So, so I sold them and made money off of them, which I was happy. And I didn't sell them for as much as they were actually probably worth, but I was happy. It was more than $55.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. If you think about all those featherweight machines that you had, if you'd have held on to them for another 5 years, you could have made 4 times as much.
Well, you know what? I just didn't have room here because, you know, we had that little room in there and my closet was just full of fabric. So I had to make room for all that. So, but you know, I still watch around here locally for featherweights, and if I find one, and that one I bought at auction that was in a treadle cabinet. Why collectors didn't look at that, I don't know, but I think they saw treadle cabinet and went on by, and they had a featherweight machine sitting in it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of thing, but people are looking for them now, so it's harder to get them,
Yeah.
at a good price.
Yeah, this was a
That
couple of summers ago, and I got it for $80 because it was in a treadle
that's yeah.
cabinet. Yeah,
Look at
and it
you.
was
You're
good. I
you're a
just tuned it up
I s
and
I saw you were selling a grill or something on
oh, yeah,
Facebook this week.
it was the grill that was on Rod's truck, and I've got it up for sale, and hopefully we can get rid it doesn't fit my truck. I need one because the deer population, you know?
You're hitting the
Well, the other morning, he hit a deer, didn't damage his truck, but killed the deer. And then before he could get onto our road, he hit an owl. It just flew right out at him. So he got up by our mailbox and stopped, and the Amish boys jumped out and ran to the front of the truck and picked the owl out of the grill and threw it over in the ditch. And then, you know, nature had took its course and something took it and la di
poor
da, they had
owl.
supper. Yeah,
Poor owl.
I
That's
know.
funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, so, what kind of, great knowledge do you wanna leave with your, listeners this week? Anything exciting?
Um, no. I did get my new I did get new rulers, and I would, kind of recommend them, I think. They are from, Studio 180 Design. They're not real long, but they're just about right, and on I was having a hard time with cuts, like they were telling me to cut. They wanted me to do a 45-degree angle, and the lines needed to come right to the edge of the ruler. I had one ruler that would come a quarter inch away from the edge of the ruler. So I was having a hard time cutting my block like they wanted me to cut it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Um, and so I can see how that would help having the quarter, if you're making the cut, having the lines right on the edge of the ruler. So anyway, there's that. That's my
Um, a studio I've got some of those rulers, and I made a quilt with it, but I couldn't tell you what the rulers were or
yeah,
what they did,
I
so
kind of started collecting those rulers and I thought, I don't even know how to use these silly things, but I had watched Deb Tucker's videos on YouTube. Um, and she is a I think she was a math teacher before, and she's really good. I wish I'd had her for math, maybe. But she can just show you just lickety split, goes right through it and shows you how to make those cuts and those, and Dory, Dory
uh-huh.
in Washington. She posted a picture of Fiesta, which was one of the quilt patterns from Studio 180 Design, and it is just so nice. You even commented on it. So it's such a cool pattern, the way the stars are, and it's not paper pieced, it's done with those rulers. So I got the pattern because I just loved that quilt. I had been looking at the pattern, then when she posted that she had made the quilt, I was like, oh, okay, that's it, sold. So I have it now.
We are going to welcome right now Jeananne Wright. She is a quilt historian and quilt appraiser. I'm going to let her tell you the story, but I was just going to say when I moved to Longmont in 2002, I think it was the first summer I was there, or maybe the second. I went to um, I went to the Hover home where they were having a spring tea, and you were the speaker. And I didn't know anybody in town, but I had the best time, at listening to you talk about the old quilts. And, the one that amazed me the most, I think, because 'cause I'd never seen anything like it, was the quilt that you had that was made out of the cigar box fabrics.
Oh, yes.
Do you still have that one?
Oh, absolutely. I can't get rid of quilts.
Oh, yeah. Well, we welcome you, and so I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, sure. That's a little hard to talk about oneself, but let's see. I am totally immersed in quilting, quilts. I'm a big quilt collector, and since I've seen you, I've just collect more and more. I have about 1,000 antique quilts. Uh,
1,000?
1,000. Each
Woohoo!
one yeah, each one is precious to me. I treat them like only children, I think, and, I love quilts. They just do so much good for me every day. I spend a lot of time taking care of them. It's not a full-time job, but it's close, and talking about them. I have 12 different lectures that I give coast to coast and east to west, north to south. And of course, since I've aged, I'm not giving as many anymore, but I had one last week and I've got one coming up soon. So I was raised out in the prairie of northeastern Colorado. We had no electricity, no indoor bathroom. Um, and no water for a few years. But oh my goodness, what a wonderful upbringing it was, and and a household full of love and fun, and we didn't have any quilts because my grandmother from Norway, when she got to this country, she made nice quilts in the 1930s, but she didn't give us any quilts because we had a coal furnace, and she knew that they would get dirty. I guess
Oh,
that's the reason. So she made us wool quilts because, it was cold in that big old house. It was an old house on a hill. And then my cousin she had given quilts to her daughters, and their children started sending me her quilts. So I have 3 or 4 of her quilts now, but she's the one that got me into quilting. Oh,
interesting.
yeah. So I've never stopped. Now when I first started collecting quilts, we lived in Lakewood, Colorado. Now I live in Longmont, but I started buying them about 19 in the 1960s, and I would always go to garage sales because my husband was a teacher and we didn't have much money, and I knew I could only spend $5 or less. So any quilt I could buy for $5, I would.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many I got. And and because I was collecting things that did not rot, like
Mm,
oak furniture and, you know, leather baby shoes and things like that, and tin cans. So I wasn't collecting anything that rots, but one day, actually in 1984, I was driving down the 6th Avenue freeway in Longmont, and I saw a garage sale off to the side of the road, and I saw quilts waving in the breeze. So I took that exit and I beat a hasty retreat to that garage sale, and lo and behold, look at these quilts. There's a blue Lone Star hanging on the line, and some folded up, and I bought them all except I there was another lady there, and I let her have a couple, the machine quilted ones, because I knew the difference. And it was my birthday, so I paid $150 for that quilt,
oh,
which
wow.
was a huge, huge amount for me. But since it was my birthday, I thought I was worth it.
Mhm. You were
Good for
worth
you.
it.
I was worth it.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I guess there's just been no stopping me since, honestly. And since my husband passed away in 11 years ago, I've been able to buy a lot more quilts, um, because I've got more room, and yeah, it
No
keeps
guilt,
me
huh? No
it
more
keeps
guilt?
no, no guilt, no. But, talking about, when I moved to Longmont in 1992, I only had about probably 50 or 60 quilts at that time, maybe, or something like that. Not too many. And when we moved here, 19 of them were stolen, and I've never been able to recover them. Have no I We moved ourselves, so I have no idea. I have some suspicions, but I really don't not know what happened to those quilts. So it was, I remember we would move, and I said, "Ted, where's my good quilts?" And he said, "Oh, they'll be here somewhere. We're not unpacked yet. We haven't unpacked all the boxes." And I remembered I had put all those quilts in a big dishwasher box, and I had labeled them best quilts. And I
Oh,
labeled the box rags or dirty clothes or something like that.
old shoes.
And so it was January by this time, and it was snow on the ground. It was cold, much like today. And I said to Ted, "There's a quilt auction on South Broadway in Denver, and I have to go." He said, "What? We're unpacking. And the roads are icy." I said, "I don't care. I've got to go." And so I said, "I'll be back as soon as I can." So I went down to Lakewood and went to this auction, which, by the way, I had an antique store next door there for many years, and went to the auction, and I was the last one there, I suppose, and everybody had was seated, and I went in there and I saw this quilt folded up, and I thought, this I like these colors. I love this quilt. And I took it up to the auctioneer and I said, I have to be home soon. Can you put this up for auction first? He said, yeah, I could do that for you. So he opened the, he opened the bidding. Nobody else bid.
Oh,
And I opened the bid at $50 and, and I got it. I
ah,
was so happy.
yeah.
I paid for it and I put it in my arms, went out to the car and I got home and Ted said, you're home awfully quick. And I said, yeah, I just found what I wanted. And it'll do my heart good. You know, my heart needs healing from all the ones that were lost. And he said, well, let's have a look at it. So I opened it up. Oh, there's a hole in the middle.
Oh,
You know, not a small hole either. And that's, see, everyone else that had a chance to examine that quilt,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I hadn't. So they knew it had a hole. But
oh,
I did not care because I was on my way to quilt recovery.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh dear.
So what do you
Um,
look for when you're buying a quilt?
Um, I look for nowadays something that I don't have and something unusual, maybe a pattern I don't have, or what I love most of all, and most of my collection probably focuses on pre 1875. So I'm loving those. A big part of my collection is red, white, and green 1850s quilts.
Mhm.
Maybe have, I don't know, 25 of those or more. And of course, I love pastel quilts. I love all quilts. I've never, honestly, never seen a quilt that I did not love. So I was teaching school, driving back and forth from Longmont to Westminster to teach school every day. And I would rush home every day and study up on quilt history because I wanted to be an appraiser. I thought that would be something I would love. And so I taught school, 4th grade for many years. And one day I came home from school and I said to Ted, I quit today. I quit teaching today. And he said, what? I said, yep. I just handed in my resignation today. He said, you can't do that. I said, oh, yes, I can. I'm going to go, I'm going into the quilt business full time, which is what I did, of course.
and when was that?
That was 1999.
Okay.
No, I was all, I was a quilt appraiser after that. So I studied for 10 years before I took the test in Paducah.
How many quilt appraisers are out there these days?
I think there's about 90. Now, I let my certification go a couple years ago. I still can appraise, and I do, not as much as I used to because, well, I do. Yes, I do. I had 4 yesterday, so who knows?
Oh,
They know me by my reputation, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And who is getting quilts appraised these days? Is it just the good ones
You
or
know, Donna, it really runs the gamut. Yesterday, 3 of the ones I had, one was a crazy quilt in poor condition, and 2 were, one was a 1930s Dresden plate in pretty decent condition. One was a, a quilt, a flying geese quilt that was in not good condition at all. And I said to her, maybe you just want oral appraisals on there on these. They're a lot cheaper than written appraisal. She said, oh no, no, I want a written appraisal. So those are 3 old ones. And then before that, I had a newly made quilt by Lois Knight. Do you remember Lois?
Yes, I do.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And that was a new one that she had made a few years ago. So it runs the gamut, new, old, in between.
Um, I was told, at one point that you have to have an appraisal, um, of your quilt if it, like, gets lost in the mail or to claim,
Yes.
to claim insurance.
Mhm.
Is that true?
I think so, yes, because otherwise they treat it as a blanket. If it's lost in the mail, they'll and you say, "I lost a quilt in the mail," they'll treat it as a blanket unless you have an appraisal, yes.
Okay.
So I don't I do mail quilts. I cannot appraise my own, of course,
Uh-huh.
and I can't appraise quilts for family members or, um, uh, anybody in my family, so it's called an arm's length appraisal, so people, um, uh, you know, anybody else, but you sure need an appraisal if you're gonna mail one,
Okay.
and I do mail them to, magazines um, that want to put them in their magazines or something like that, so I and the insurance company knows that I know the value of them. So, yeah.
Do
Interesting.
all quilts need to be appraised, do you think?
Well, if you're going to donate them, yes, so you can actually, take it off your income tax if you want
Yeah.
to, or if you are going to gift it, it's a great idea to have it appraised so that people you gift it to will not let the dog sit on it or,
Or eat
something
it.
like. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so it's and they'll know to treat it nicely. So a lot of what I do are new quilts made for gifts.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
yeah,
Um, I Another question that I'm just at the top of my head. How does a quilt top that is older with new quilting on it is do you I don't know even know what the question is. I guess my question is it better to have an old top quilted by a new quilter, or is it better to keep an old top unquilted?
and here's the real answer. Will it increase your enjoyment of that quilt? Would it increase your enjoyment? Yes.
Okay,
Now it needs to be done well, in order, like, if it's hand pieced, it probably should need to be hand quilted, which is something I love to do. I've made over 100 quilts, but, currently well, to further your answer your question, um, I have maybe 100 tops or something like that, and I've hand quilted lots and lots and lots of them because it increased my enjoyment of that quilt, and I could appreciate it so much. Um, I don't really recommend it, but I just say, "Will it increase your enjoyment?" That's what because I get this question quite a bit.
and one of my thoughts was that it'll if it's quilted, it will last longer? Survive
Uh,
longer? I don't know if that's really true or not.
Probably not,
Okay.
no, and sometimes quilt tops are too fragile. I have some that I wouldn't dare put needles in because it would destroy the fabric.
And I
So
would
you
probably
have
say go ahead.
you have to assess the condition of the quilt top before you want to put a needle in it. Mhm.
Okay. I'm not talking old. I guess the ones that I've done have been, um,
30s, like.
or even later, like some of the
Oh,
things that
yeah.
came out of the in that were in the, um that were maybe even kits, like
Yes.
the applique on
Mhm.
I've done a few. I'll send you pictures of them. They turned out really well, so I don't regret doing them.
Well, if it in no, don't. And if it increases your customers, you just
Right.
ask them because
Right.
they wouldn't have asked you unless they really wanted to preserve grandma's quilt.
Right, and I
So
think
that
I've done 'em justice, so that
I
helps.
think so too, because 'cause you're good.
So then adding fabric, this kinda goes with what she just asked, but, I've heard that when you add fabric to an old quilt top, a modern fabric, that it brings it to that date. It's no longer
Well,
1930s quilt, it's
mhm,
now
mhm.
1999 or whatever.
Yeah, you generally date quilts to the newest fabric you find in a quilt, and I've never honestly, I don't think I've ever seen anybody add new fabric to a quilt top. Um, maybe just for the borders, but that would be it. Yeah, it's not commonly done.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, I want you say you have about 1,000 quilts now. How do you store your quilts?
Well, I've got 3 guest beds, and I have the ones I don't want folded, I my best ones, maybe I put out flat on the guest bed. I don't have any animals, no cats, no dogs,
There you go.
no no kids around here. So I stack them up on the bed full so they don't get fold lines in them.
Right, okay.
Then I have about 4 quilt or 5 quilt cupboards, and I drape them over railings. Uh, and I have to be very careful that the sun never crosses their path. And I have had all my windows tinted, coated, um, but even that I don't trust. So I chill on these 3 beds. I still cover them with sheets.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, folding is not your friend.
Well, folding is not my friend. I'll tell you why. A, an average quilt weighs about 3 pounds. So if you stack up, say, 4 quilts or 5, that's about 14 or 15 pounds of pressure on that, uh, or 12 pounds on that lowest quilt. So you don't want to do that. Now, I do have to do that. So I rotate them often and I refold them really often. Um, it's not a full time job, but boy, it's close. I work at it every day.
Oh, really? You
I
do
take care
something
of
every
my
day?
quilts every day.
Wow.
Don't talk too loudly because my quilts can hear you.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Donna, with the new batting that we have nowadays, which is polyester or poly blend, you don't get those fold lines.
Oh,
And
really?
so after the 1950s, when polyester batting came into being, you don't get the fold lines that you get with old cotton batting. And wool also doesn't make fold lines. So a
Okay.
lot of mine, mhm. So that's a good thing to know.
Yeah.
That is, and I think that I've heard people talking about, like, show quilts, quilts that they're putting in quilt shows that they want the cheapest, yuckiest batting because it doesn't hold like a cheap polyester batting because it doesn't hold the
Oh,
folds.
Right.
That's interesting.
yeah.
Well, I don't really know too much about I don't make quilts for shows.
Do you,
And
appraise those quilts
yes,
ever?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sure,
Mhm.
all the time.
Yeah.
Because they need an appraisal to be in a show.
Okay.
That's something I do frequently.
Another question, is what are your recommendations for people taking care of their quilts?
Well, boy, that's a good one. That's a good question. First of all, I do not I do not recommend washing them. Um, because you don't know what the dyes are going to oops, there's my phone ringing, we'll just let it go. You don't know if the dyes are going to run, or anything like that,
Okay,
and so I don't recommend that. Now, occasionally, if it's just terribly terrible and you have to wash it, you can wash it, and I have a method for doing that. Ooh, I wish the phone would quit. Probably a robocall, isn't
probably.
it? They'll leave a message. So What were we on? Taking care of quilts?
Yeah, taking what
Washing.
Yeah, taking care of
you were
quilts.
talking about
So,
washing, not washing.
yeah. Okay, if you need to wash, and you never dry clean a quilt, never, because you don't know if the fabrics are going to chemicals could do irreparable damage to a quilt. So no, no, never dry clean a quilt.
Okay.
If you do have to wash it, and sometimes it is just terrible, and I've done this several times, I've had to. You've put some lukewarm water in the tub, a few inches, and I use Dawn dishwashing soap. You cannot use detergent. You can also use Orvis, ORVUS, which is a soap that veterinarians use. I think the Rocky Mountain Quilt Museum might. They used to sell it. There's also a thing called Quilt Wash that I have, but I don't trust it. So I use Dawn dishwashing soap, just a couple of drops, 2 or 3 drops, and you make a suds of it, and you immerse your quilt in it down in the water, and you just let it soak for anywhere from 15 minutes to, you know, 2 hours, something like depends on how dirty you think it is. Then you never squeeze or wring a quilt. You just press, 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 and scrunch it up to the side of the tub and let the water, then you drain that water and you wash it again. Sometimes I wash it 7 times
Wow.
before water is clear and there's no soap left. And I rinse and rinse and rinse it. It's a long process on your hands and knees in the bathtub, no in the washing machine.
You are
Okay.
the woman.
Yeah, I don't even think a front-loading washing machine, they say it might be okay, but, uh, I don't know. I wouldn't trust it. Anyway, you cannot lift a wet quilt out of the tub either. So you've scrunched it up, you've gotten as much water out as you can. Then you put a white sheet under it and you lift the sheet out so you're not,
Huh.
you know, stressing the quilting stitches.
Oh,
Mm.
interesting.
And what I do is I put all of my um, swimming pool towels. I've got a lot of them on the floor, and I lay the quilt out on the floor, and I roll it, press, roll, press, roll, press until it's as dry as it can be. Then on one of my guest beds, I put 2 heavy plastic sheets down. You can buy painter's plastic. I put 2 down, and I put that quilt. I take the old quilts off first, of course, then all the 30 of them. Then I put that quilt down, upside down, and you let it dry upside down for a couple days because any remaining dirt in the quilt will wick up to the back.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I turn it
Oh,
over and dry it right side up for a few days. I usually have put a fan in that room, or sometimes 2, to circulate the air and dry the quilt. So it's a long process. I just the faint of heart wouldn't wanna do it.
yeah.
So if you have somebody that like I had somebody that I gifted a quilt to, and they were saying that it needed to be washed,
Mhm.
and you know, I and I know don't really I mean, I wash the quilts out on my bed, but they're utility quilts, so it's not that
Yeah,
big a deal. What how would you suggest do you suggest just saying you don't really need to wash it? Or do
right.
you
Yeah.
unless there's
Does it
something
does it have to be washed, or did the cat pee on it, or
oh,
something like
yeah.
that? And then
I think somebody at one point said vacuuming them might be
well, we I don't like that. One of the theories is with old quilts, if they're dusty, that's why I cover them with a sheet too, to
okay.
keep the dust off
Yeah.
and the sun off. You can use, a screen, of some kind and vacuum through the screen to get the dust off, but I don't use that method. I
Okay.
really don't. Now,
So
sometimes if it just smells terrible, like it's got cigarette smoke in it, that's common. I mean, sort of common. Then I put it outside. Um, I put a sheet out on the grass and I put the quilt upside down on the sheet. I put another sheet on the top, and I put rocks all around the edges and let it just air out there for a while. Now, my backyard backs up to a golf course, so if somebody hit a ball in my yard, which is very common, I don't want them stepping on that sheet, so I try to
Monitor
make it. Yeah,
it.
monitor it. Now, also, if you have a covered patio, which I do, and the sun doesn't shine on it, which it doesn't, you can clean off your patio table and put a sheet over that and let it air out without covering it. And that sometimes works.
Okay.
Another thing you can do, and I've done this before, get a plastic bag and you put kitty litter in it. And if it just smells terrible, you can put your quilt, scrunch it up, put it in there, and leave it for a few days. And the kitty litter sometimes absorbs the smell.
Wow.
I really don't recommend that because I'm not sure what kitty litter has in it.
Yeah, the chemicals.
So I don't do that anymore. But
Interesting.
sometimes I buy a quilt that I love and I get it home. Oh my God, it smells like must or it
Mhm.
smells like smoke. And
Yeah.
I can't bring it into the house because I can't stand that smell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, tell do you have any, advice for, storing fabric?
Um, I Not really. My fabric of choice, as you might or might not know, are feed sacks.
Oh,
I
right.
love
So
them.
I have hundreds of feed sacks from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s. And so I store them, I refold them, I pet them, I use them. So what I've done in the last few years, I take old quilt blocks, sets of blocks from the 20s, not the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and I that have never been made into a quilt, just, stack the blocks if I like them, and I set them with feed sacks, front and back. And I've made, 69 of those. So that's what I currently do, and I love it.
Okay.
So I don't know caring for fabric. I think you're just good there.
You just
Just
need
to
need to
stack.
make the quilt, and then you have to worry. See,
Yeah,
if you never make the quilt, you don't have to worry about keeping the fabric.
yeah. So my next lecture is on feed sacks, so feed sack quilt.
Yay.
That'll be fun.
I
That's
have a
fun.
tub of feed sacks
You
and,
do? Oh,
yes,
you're
and
my friend.
some of them came because my grandfather worked at a mill.
Oh, wow.
So he would bring them home, here's some feed sack, and so we have those. And then we were at my husband's grandparents' auction, and there was a box of feed sacks, and I
Oh,
have a
wow.
limit, on how far I'll go. And so I set my limit in my head and I thought, oh, Rod's gonna flip out when I keep going, so I
Yeah.
stopped and he kept going. So I have those
Oh,
too. Yeah, so I've got them
I
all.
love it.
I
Are
know,
they
me too.
I love feed sacks, I never had to wear them, I didn't, but mom baked bread. So we lived out on the prairie, as I told you, we were an hour from town. So we would go to town once a week and go to the grocery store, and, uh, and I would get to pick out the feed sack I wanted
Ah,
for my doll clothes.
Oh,
So
fun.
it might be the one that was on the bottom of the stack, and the guy had to go pull it out, but he always did.
Too
that's
funny.
So I
awesome.
use them for doll quilts. Now I just love them.
Yeah.
And you put them on the back of quilts when you make quilts, right?
Yep.
That's what I thought.
And the ones on the back of the quilts, Donna, they're feed sacks with words and pictures on them.
Right.
So you see those that say corn, it might say flour or sugar. Usually sugar stacks, no, they're too small. But, anything that says something like um, mostly flour sacks
That's
that have
interesting.
a logo and a picture. But there's some feed sacks I have that are so valuable that they can't be cut. And they're, you know, I have one. 2 Gone with the Wind sacks.
Oh, wow.
They're so valuable, and I've got some fighting cock 2 or 3 fighting cock sacks. They're worth over $100 now. So any
Wow.
feed sacks with an eagle or a rooster on it, or a Native American, or, um, like I have one with a football player on it, those can't be cut.
See, now
They're
you're gonna make me go through my tub.
You better go through your tubs, and you better send me pictures of those that you're
I will.
wondering about.
Yeah.
Too funny. Um,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about, moisture?
Yes, I can. So, moisture is one of the most damaging things to a quilt, especially where you folks live. Right here in Colorado, we don't get, very much humidity, so it's not something to worry about. But moisture is sets and I see it on the back of the quilts, mold sets in. You
Mhm.
can't get rid of it. You cannot. So that's why I think you should air your quilts out frequently and rotate them and upside down, right side up. Make sure they're dry.
And don't store in a plastic bag.
No, never,
I know it, and I keep
never,
telling people that.
never store in plastic. So a, a big cotton pillowcase is good. I make my own big cotton pillowcases. Um, if I need to go to lectures, that's what I use. Take, I take 30 quilts with me
Yeah,
for each lecture.
And you put each one in a separate thing?
No, no,
You
no, I
just
don't.
you just
I make great big ones. I put maybe one, two, three together. So I've got about 10 bags to take in my lecture. 9, maybe. Yeah,
um,
it's a big job for me.
I can
I
imagine.
I've given over 300 um, quilt lectures and across the country, and it's becoming harder and harder because those darn things are heavy.
I
Yeah,
bet.
So I try not to make the bags too heavy for myself.
yeah, definitely. Mary Beth, do you remember the question that the lady asked on Quilting with Mary Beth about something about putting a quilt in a Come on, Mary Beth.
I'm thinking.
Read
I
my
don't know,
mind.
you gotta finish what you're asking me because I don't.
Well, I don't remember
Uh,
what she was it was I think she was talking about putting, acid-free paper or something at the
oh,
bottom. What was the
mhm,
Right,
yeah,
question?
yeah,
yeah,
she had a cabinet, antique cabinet, with wood
yes,
shelves, and she was
yeah.
asking. I said, "Yes," but what do you say?
Yes, yes, you can do that. It's expensive. That acid-free paper is expensive. You know what's less expensive and works better for me is polyester batting. I cut it in strips, and I use that in the fold lines. It's
Really?
cheaper, it is better, it doesn't crinkle, and, why not, use it? So I have a lot of leftover batting from when I make my quilts, so I save it all the time and put it in the fold lines
I
a lot.
suggested that she put the acid-free. She asked about acid-free, I said, "Yes, I
Mhm,
would do that," and then I told her to refold them often.
exactly. You did the
Yeah,
right thing, and of course,
okay.
you never want a quilt to touch wood.
Yeah,
Wood ha
that's
wood has properties that aren't, and never put them in a cedar chest. That's the worst.
Okay. Okay,
really?
now
Okay.
you're making me feel
Yeah.
really bad.
Oh, no! This is not a good time for
No,
you.
no, mine are just my utility quilts are in a trunk,
That's
but
fine.
yeah,
Utility. Yeah.
yeah, and but then I've got, quilts on it. Yeah. I did have when we were in Longmont, I had an extra bed, and I had all my quilts on the bed for a long
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
I don't have the space here. I need to figure out something better to do here, but, yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're a beautiful quilt maker and a quilter, so
Oh, well,
you'll
thank
figure it out.
I
And
I I
some people that some of one of my friends, Bobby Ogg, she's since passed away, but she stored her antique quilts in a climate-controlled storage unit.
oh,
But
Oh,
I cannot do that because I have to have them right with me to get ready for the next program. So I can't be running back and forth to a storage unit.
I would think
Right.
too, after you lost a box of good quilts, you don't want them to be out of your sight.
I don't
No,
want him to be out of my sight, no.
I know. That's terrible.
Right.
So
So
can I ask about, the appraiser part of your
Mhm.
life? So I was watching online, trying to study up for this because I've
Mhm.
never had a quilt appraised.
Uh-huh.
But I know at all the quilt shows I've ever been to, there's always a appraiser back in the back somewhere
Oh, yes,
working
I've done
hard.
that. Mhm.
Yeah. So, how hard is it to become an appraiser?
It's really a long process.
Yeah.
So I studied for 10 years. I probably
Ah,
would not needed to have,
mhm,
but I was teaching school at the time,
mhm.
and I would come home every day, I think I told you, and study. Get home from school and study for 2 or 3 hours on quilt history
Ah.
because I wanted to know everything. I could have taken the test before I did, but I was teaching school and I couldn't go to Paducah where they tested to take it, so couldn't go till after I retired.
One of the ladies that I listened to said that AQS classes are the only accredited
Right,
quilt
as far as I
appraisal.
know,
Yeah.
yes,
And
yes.
that, it's a 3-day appraisal skills course.
Yep,
Yep. And there's a 2-part test, written exam
yep,
and oral
yes,
evaluation.
yes.
Yep. Uh,
It's not for the faint of heart.
right. It says that the classes for members of AQS or whatever it's called is $320
Yep,
or 400 if you're not a member,
mm,
and $100 for the application fee,
yes,
and testing fee is $150.
yeah,
Yeah. So, and then you have to do recertification every 3 years.
that's true.
Okay.
That's right, that's all correct.
Okay.
It's a rigorous, of course, they want it to be rigorous, or we want it to be rigorous because we want to know somebody's really,
really
able to
fun.
do this.
Yeah.
Now, you do not have to be certified to appraise quilts, you don't have to be, but, certainly it's a good thing to be.
I would think.
Yeah.
So, also she covered insurance,
Mhm.
donation quilts, and fair
Yep,
market
that's
values. You
right.
wanna touch on those?
Sure. Insurance is if you're going to keep the quilt, and you want it insured, or you're gonna ship it, you want it insured, or if you're going to give it to somebody, like recently I had somebody that was giving it to a niece for her wedding, which had already happened, so it would be the niece's insurance that would cover it. So we always have to be careful about that. If she's shipping it, it can be her insurance. And donation is, you can't not donate a quilt that you have made and take off, you can only take off the cost of the materials. If it's something you've made, for instance, Donna, if you donated one of your new quilts to the Rocky Mountain Quilt Museum, you can only take off the cost of the fabric and thread and batting, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And fair market values if you're going to sell it. And that's, so I have to keep up on the market all the time. So I do that, internet sales, uh, all kinds of, I go to antique stores and auctions and things like that.
Now,
Different parts of the country different on fair market value?
Um, I don't think too much.
Okay.
I haven't seen a great amount.
is there a difference between, fair market value and an appraised value?
Yes, appraised value is for fair market, insurance, or donation. Fair market is one of those.
But I
That's
guess my question is, are d if you're selling a quilt, are you ever really gonna get what it's worth?
oh, probably not. The quilts that are selling nowadays, and the market is soft. The market is soft, and it has been since the pandemic, even before. I think, and so people that come to me and they say they want to sell their quilt, I say, wait till the market comes back up and the things like that. Now, what was your question again?
The difference
Oh,
between
are you
fair
going to
market.
get for, yeah,
Yeah.
what are you going to get for it? So if you, what quilts are selling really, really well if they're really old, or they've got some provenance that is solid, maybe say made by a famous person or something like that, or really, really old quilts in good condition.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are selling, and they are selling like hotcakes,
Hey,
thousands of dollars.
let me
Thousands.
ask you too about labels.
Mm-hmm.
Should we?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. You need to label your quilts. And I label all of my quilts that I make. And
Mhm.
I put, because my feed stack quilts, and everybody should label their quilts. If you're giving it away, if you're keeping it, and more people are putting labels and sleeves on their quilts just in case they get to hang it in a show.
I
So that's
see.
kind of common. Now with my feed stack quilts, I put big labels on the back. This is how I made this, when I made it, um, what feed sacks I used, and so nobody will ever confuse this with an antique quilt because it's really not.
Oh, okay.
It's a feed sack quilt with antique blocks.
Now, do you put modern fabrics? So, like I have my feet sacks and I want to make a quilt out of them.
Mhm.
Do I put solid fabric in it
You
to kind
can.
to kind of break up all the
You can.
patterns going on?
You
Okay.
can. Yep. But
That was my quilt.
once in a great while, I do that, not very often. I usually
Okay.
try to use complete
Yeah.
all feed sack. But occasionally, if I'm going to say I'm going to pipe around the blocks or I'm going to flange
Uh-huh.
around the blocks. Occasionally, very rarely, I'll use new fabric.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay. Well, I thought it would be better to use them than to leave them in that tub
I think so.
and never get to look
I
at
use
them because
I use them. It's fun to look at them, just to pet
oh,
them, like, woo!
pet 'em. Yes, I love pet 'em. Yeah, and just think of, in my tub in particular, I know where they came from. So,
Mhm.
that's what makes them great, and my mom
Oh,
said that
yeah.
my grandpa like my grandmother would say, "Hey, we need feed sacks, and I need 2 of the same kind,"
Yes.
or whatever. So
Yes.
that's what he would do. He'd try to get 2
Yeah.
bags the same kind.
You
So
bet. So did we. And so I'm really happy if I can buy multiple feed sacks.
uh-huh.
Now, sometimes I'll get 5 of one
Oh,
or
that's
4 of one, or I made myself a feed sack dress that I used for that lecture, and it
mhm.
uses 3 or 4, and I have 1 left over.
Ah,
Yeah.
yay.
Mm.
Is it as easy? I know you're only looking for particular quilts, when you're looking for quilts, but is it easier to find antique quilts now than it was, or is it harder?
Oh, you can't find them. The internet,
Mm.
sites, everyone sells them. Can't find them in antique stores anymore. It's so rare.
You don't want
Uh,
holy
it
ones, right?
Cut?
You
What?
don't buy holy ones, like, if they have the
No, no,
nothing worn on them or the
no.
edges or any of
I'm
that, yeah.
pretty particular nowadays.
Mhm,
I can be.
mhm.
Uh, yeah,
Do
I have a
your
but
local auction that sells a lot of antique quilts, like,
yes,
they come up
yes,
and that's another question. When
yeah,
does it become antique versus vintage?
yeah. That's a good question. I think antique quilts are 1940s and older,
Okay,
vintage quilts, but that's just my opinion.
uh-huh.
And I would personally not be interested in a quilt made in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, or 90s.
A lot of polyester going on there.
Yeah, and I have a blue light, which I can shine. You make it dark, you shine your blue light on the quilt, and if it has any polyester in it, it will fluoresce.
Oh, interesting.
So that's how I figure that out.
Cool. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, yeah.
Jeananne,
You can buy blue lights, anywhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of the jokes that goes around in the long arm circles in Longmont is the fact that um, if you have a quilt that you don't want to quilt, you call Donna. And I don't know what I was doing. I answered the phone one day. It was the Lions quilt store. And they somebody had brought in, it was fully double polyester Lone Star. Um,
A polyester quilt.
yeah, it was a Lone Star,
Mhm,
so it was
mhm.
it was
Yeah,
horrible. I quilted it.
yeah,
I got one
and I
for a
bet
wedding present in 1977.
Re
you know, you I love it. You'd be surprised to know that I do collect polyester quilts. I
Oh,
have. I quit doing that, but I was doing it for a while because guess what? In a few years, they're gonna be collectible. They already starting to be collectible.
and their color's gonna be vivid, and they're not
Yep,
gonna have holes, and,
and they're not gonna fade.
no.
I've got a lot of them. I love them. I remember once I paid $13 for one, get them cheap.
Yeah.
They're cheap, but I
Okay,
paid up to 150 for them too.
you need to do one of your bed turnings with just polyester quilts. I will come to town for that.
I don't have probably enough for just that, but I've done that before, included it. Yeah,
That's
Uh,
fun.
I've never sold. I do sell quilts occasionally, but I've never sold a polyester quilt.
So, what is your plan for your quilts, after you're gone?
Now, I was hoping you would not ask that question
oh.
because I have 3 children. Are they each going to want 300 quilts? No.
Do they like your
So,
collection?
um, a daughter-in-law does, a son does, and a daughter does.
Well, that's good.
But they're not gonna want that many. So,
Yeah.
I I enjoy them so much. When I am gone, they can do whatever they want with them, honestly. And I've always told them before too long, maybe in 10 more years, because I'm 84, and when I'm in my mid-90s, you come and you can pick out an A, B, and C, like A or best, B or middle, C or not so good, and the next person can pick out A, B, C, so on and so forth and so on. So everybody gets an A, a lot of A's and a lot of B's and a lot of C's. Then you do what you want with them.
That's
I don't
great.
care. I've enjoyed them.
That's
They
great.
brought me considerable joy in my life.
Maybe we'll, go to a quilt museum and see the Jeananne Wright collection.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
I probably now I did donate a lot of things to them yesterday.
Did you?
I have for Fabric and Friends. Um, and I've had exhibits there of my quilts. The latest one was quilts with more than 3,000 pieces.
Wow.
So I have a lot of those, and that's a major part of my collection too. And I have one quilt that has 20,500 pieces
Wow.
for
Does
an
that make
infant.
them worth more if they have teeny
Yes,
tiny pieces? Okay.
yes. They're sought after on the market. Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And who did you donate them to?
Oh, I haven't donated any of those. I
Oh,
just donated some yesterday. I donated quilt blocks um, and I've donated for Fabric and Friends. That's their fundraiser every year, and I've donated a few things to them this year.
okay.
Not too many, not too many.
Yeah.
Or I donate them to their trunk show
Right.
or something like that
Cool.
because I love the museum.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you get to go to the, different quilt museums?
Yeah, I have gone to several quilt museums, um, and then another thing I do if I buy a quilt and I try to research who made it. So I'm big into that research and the stories behind the quilts. I'll go anywhere. I went to Natchez, Mississippi to research a quilt once.
Okay.
Um, and Tennessee,
Okay.
and I've got one quilt that was buried in the Civil War.
Oh,
Went there to research it. Yeah.
That reminds me, there was an article about you in Quilt Folk for Colorado,
Yes,
which came out.
recently. Mhm.
Um, the week before that came out,
Pea
period.
Ridge.
yes.
Pea Ridge.
So I was
Oh,
like,
you can't
"Look,
that's the one, yes.
that's cool.
That's where I
That's
went.
really cool."
Yeah, it was buried in the Civil
Oh,
War, and it's
that's remarkable.
solid story there. I make sure that I'll and so several years ago, the Denver Post did a story on me and my quilts, and they came to the house and took pictures and then made this article for their Sunday edition. And one of the quilts, that quilt was on the bed, and I knew who made it, da da da, but I didn't know much about that quilt. And lo and behold, when Portia Sword is her name, and she got a hold of me and she said that was made by my great great grandmother and
Wow,
told me the whole history of the quilt, where it was buried, exactly where it was buried.
that's
Huh.
awesome.
It's
I know.
amazing.
Yeah. It's my favorite quilt outside of my grandmother's quilts.
Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. Any more questions, Mary Beth?
Well, let me look here. I think she's covered everything I have.
Oh, one more thing I wanted to say.
Mhm.
With storing your quilts, some people recommend rolling them on a 3 or 4-inch cardboard tube
Yeah.
and covering that tube with a sheet or something, but I just don't like that because when you roll, it creates a stretch on those quilting
Sides.
stitches, so I don't recommend that,
Hmm.
though some people do.
Yeah, I have seen some that have, like, systems that are, like, rolled.
Yeah, and when you send a quilt to a show, that's a pretty good way to send it. It's cheaper that way.
Oh, okay.
Roll it and put it in a box.
Oh,
Have a
There
box.
interesting.
Yeah.
there's a video on, that keeps popping up on Facebook of a lady saying, "This is the proper way to fold a quilt," and she does, like, a triangle fold and then
I
another.
do that sometimes. I
Do
do that
you?
some I
Yeah,
do it occasionally. I at one time, I decided to fold all my quilts that way, or a major part of them. So I did, and I don't do that anymore. Nowadays, fold them in thirds if I need to, or something like that.
yeah,
So
that's
I
fine.
don't like that diagonal folds very well, but you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's so they're not on the fold isn't on the bias and it won't hold
Well,
the
it's and
hold
Right.
not in the
The
seams
the f
usually.
yeah,
Yeah. So the fold is on the bias when you fold it like,
Yeah,
Mary Beth just said.
yeah.
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have to say this has been an enjoyable 42 minutes.
I love
Oh,
it.
it's
No, this has been wonderful. I, really appreciate you taking the time out for us.
yeah, okay. Alright. This
Uh,
has been fun.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sorry for our boomer editing skills, but we're quilters. Anyway, thanks for joining us today, and thanks to Jeananne Wright for talking to us. I hope we've got some good information out of it, and we'll see you next time.